The Mask's Embrace. Chapter 1. The Craft. Emily was an imaginative and creative girl, always seeking new ways to express herself. At 8 years old, Halloween was her favorite time of year. This Halloween, she decided to make her own costume, a tradition her mother had encouraged since she was old enough to use scissors. This year, she wanted to create something special, something unique that no one else would have. After school, she rushed to her room, her mind buzzing with ideas. She rummaged through her craft supplies, pulling out an old plastic mask, paint, glitter, and glue. But something was missing. She wanted it to be personal, something that represented her. As she sat there twisting a lock of her own hair around her finger, inspiration struck. She carefully cut a small section of her hair and glued it onto the mask, right above where the forehead would be. She painted the rest of the mask with intricate designs, adding glitter to make it sparkle. When she was done, she held it up to the light, admiring her handiwork. It was perfect, eerie, and beautiful. Little did she know, the act of placing her hair on the mask had imbued it with a part of herself, a connection that would change everything. That night, she showed her parents the mask. "Look, Mom. Look, Dad. I made this all by myself," she exclaimed, her eyes shining with pride. Her mother smiled warmly, ruffling Emily's hair. "It's wonderful, sweetheart. You're so talented." Her father nodded in agreement. "Very impressive, Emily. I bet no one else will have a mask like that." Emily beamed with happiness, feeling a sense of accomplishment. She couldn't wait to show her friends and wear it on Halloween night. As she placed the mask on her dresser before bed, she felt a strange sense of anticipation, as if something exciting was about to happen. But as she drifted off to sleep, the mask seemed to shimmer in the moonlight, its eyes almost alive with a faint, eerie glow. Chapter 2. The First Whisper. Halloween night arrived, and Emily could hardly contain her excitement. She put on her costume and donned the mask, feeling a strange sense of power and confidence as she looked at herself in the mirror. The mask fit perfectly, almost as if it had molded itself to her face. As she walked down the street with her friends, collecting candy and laughing at the spooky decorations, she started to hear whispers. At first, she thought it was just the wind rustling through the trees, but the whispers grew louder and more distinct. They seemed to be coming from the mask itself. "Emily, Emily!" She stopped in her tracks, looking around nervously. Her friends didn't seem to notice anything unusual, so she shrugged it off and continued on. But the whispers persisted, growing more insistent. "Emily, let me in." She tried to ignore it, but the voice was relentless. It echoed in her mind, making it hard to concentrate on anything else. By the time she got home, she was exhausted and a little scared. She took off the mask and placed it on her dresser, hoping that a good night's sleep would make everything better. But the mask had other plans. That night, as she lay in bed, the whispers returned. They were faint at first, just a soft murmur at the edge of her consciousness. But as the night wore on, they grew louder and more urgent. "Emily, let me in, let me in!" She tossed and turned, trying to block out the voice. But it was no use. It was inside her head, and it wouldn't leave her alone. She covered her ears with her pillow, but the voice seemed to penetrate through the fabric, growing louder and more insistent. "Emily, let me in! Let me in!" She finally drifted off to sleep, but her dreams were filled with darkness and terror. She found herself in a shadowy forest, the trees twisted and gnarled like the fingers of a witch. The air was thick with fog, and the only sound was the soft, rhythmic whisper of her name. "Emily, Emily!" She walked through the forest, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt a presence following her, always just out of sight. She tried to run, but her feet felt like they were stuck in mud, dragging her down. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. "Emily, let me in." She woke up in a cold sweat, her heart racing. The room was dark, and the mask was still on her dresser, its eyes seeming to glow in the moonlight. She tried to shake off the fear, telling herself it was just a bad dream. But deep down, she knew it was more than that. The mask was alive, and it wanted something from her. Chapter 3. The Nightmares. Over the next few days, the whispers became a constant presence in Emily's mind. They were no longer just in her dreams. They followed her everywhere, haunting her every thought. She tried to tell her parents, but they dismissed it as an overactive imagination. The mask seemed to have a life of its own. Whenever Emily looked at it, she felt it staring back at her, as if it were watching her every move. She started to feel a strange compulsion to put it on, to let it become a part of her. One night, she couldn't resist any longer. She picked up the mask and put it on, feeling an immediate sense of relief as the whispers stopped. But then, something strange happened. She felt a surge of energy, as if the mask were drawing power from her. She tried to take it off, but it wouldn't budge. "Emily, let me in." The voice was no longer a whisper. It was a command. She felt herself losing control, her body no longer her own. The mask was taking over, consuming her. She struggled, but it was too late. The mask had won. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and fear. Emily felt like a prisoner in her own body, watching helplessly as the mask controlled her actions. She could feel its malevolent presence growing stronger, feeding off her fear and despair. Her friends noticed the change in her behavior. "Emily, are you okay?" Her best friend Sarah asked one day at school. "You've been acting really weird lately." Emily wanted to scream for help, to tell Sarah about the mask and the whispers, but she couldn't. The mask wouldn't let her. Instead, she just nodded and forced a smile. "I'm fine, Sarah. Just tired, I guess." But Sarah wasn't convinced. She could see the fear in Emily's eyes, the way her hands trembled when she thought no one was looking. She decided to keep an eye on her friend, hoping to find a way to help. Chapter 4. The Possession. As the days turned into weeks, the mask's hold on Emily grew stronger. She became more withdrawn and distant, her once bright and cheerful demeanor replaced by a cold, vacant stare. She spent most of her time in her room, the mask never leaving her side. Her friends stopped coming over, scared off by her strange behavior. Even her teachers noticed, but no one knew how to help her. Emily was slipping away and the mask was taking her place. One night, as Emily sat alone in her room, she felt the mask tighten around her face. She could feel it melding with her skin, becoming a part of her. The pain was unbearable, but she couldn't scream. She was trapped, a prisoner in her own body. The mask had become her new face, and with it came a darkness that consumed her. She was no longer Emily. She was something else, something evil. Sarah, still worried about her friend, decided to confront Emily. She knocked on Emily's bedroom door, her heart pounding with fear and determination. "Emily, it's Sarah. Can I come in?" There was no response, but Sarah pushed the door open anyway. She gasped when she saw Emily sitting on the bed, the mask firmly attached to her face. "Emily, what are you doing? Take that off!" But Emily just stared at her, her eyes cold and empty. "I can't, Sarah. It's too late." Sarah took a step back, fear gripping her heart. "What do you mean? It's too late? We can fix this. We'll find a way." But Emily shook her head. "No, Sarah. The mask. It's part of me now. I can't fight it." Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she realized the depth of her friend's despair. "There has to be something we can do. I won't give up on you, Emily." But the mask's hold on Emily was too strong. It had taken over her mind and body, leaving nothing but a shell of the girl she once was. Chapter 5. The Transformation. Days turned into weeks, and Emily's parents noticed a change in their daughter. She became more withdrawn and distant, her once bright and cheerful demeanor replaced by a cold, vacant stare. She spent most of her time in her room, the mask never leaving her side. Her friends stopped coming over, scared off by her strange behavior. Even her teachers noticed, but no one knew how to help her. Emily was slipping away and the mask was taking her place. One night, as Emily sat alone in her room, she felt the mask tighten around her face. She could feel it melding with her skin, becoming a part of her. The pain was unbearable, but she couldn't scream. She was trapped, a prisoner in her own body. The mask had become her new face, and with it came a darkness that consumed her. She was no longer Emily. She was something else, something evil. Sarah, still worried about her friend, decided to confront Emily. She knocked on Emily's bedroom door, her heart pounding with fear and determination. "Emily, it's Sarah. Can I come in?" There was no response, but Sarah pushed the door open anyway. She gasped when she saw Emily sitting on the bed, the mask firmly attached to her face.
Emily, what are you doing? Take that off!
But Emily just stared at her, her eyes cold and empty.
I can't, Sarah. It's too late.
Sarah took a step back, fear gripping her heart. What do you mean, it's too late? We can fix this. We'll find a way. But Emily shook her head. No, Sarah, the mask, it's part of me now. I can't fight it. Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she realized the depth of her friend's despair. There has to be something we can do. I won't give up on you, Emily. But the mask's hold on Emily was too strong. It had taken over her mind and body, leaving nothing but a shell of the girl she once was. Chapter 6. The Final Embrace. The transformation was complete. Emily's body was now a vessel for the mask, a puppet controlled by a malevolent force. She no longer had any memories of her past life. She was an empty shell driven by a single purpose, to spread the darkness. She started with her family. Her parents were the first to fall, their screams echoing through the house as the mask drained their life force. One by one, her friends and neighbors followed, each meeting a gruesome end. The town was plunged into chaos, the once peaceful streets now filled with fear and despair. The mask's power grew with each soul it claimed, its hunger insatiable. As the darkness spread, Emily's body began to decay, the mask the only thing holding her together. She was a walking nightmare, a harbinger of doom. And as she looked out over the ruined town, she felt a twisted sense of satisfaction. The mask had taken over, and there was no turning back. Emily was gone, and in her place was a monster, a creature of pure evil, and it was just getting started. One night, as the mask prowled the streets in search of its next victim, it encountered Sarah. She had been hiding, trying to avoid the darkness that had consumed her friend. But now, face to face with the monster Emily had become, she knew she had to act. Emily, if there's any part of you left in there, please, fight it, Sarah pleaded, her voice trembling with emotion. For a moment, the mask hesitated. Deep within the darkness, a flicker of Emily's spirit struggled to break free. But the mask's grip was too strong, and it quickly regained control.
Emily is gone!
The mask hissed, its voice a twisted amalgamation of Emily's and something far more sinister. And you will join her. Sarah's heart broke as she realized there was no saving her friend. With tears streaming down her face, she made a desperate decision. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small vial of holy water, a last-ditch effort she had hoped she wouldn't need to use.
Forgive me, Emily,
she whispered before throwing the vial at the mask. The holy water splashed across the mask's surface, causing it to shriek in pain. For a brief moment, Emily's face appeared, her eyes filled with anguish and desperation. Sarah, help me. But the mask quickly reasserted its control, and the moment was lost. Enraged, it lunged at Sarah, its eyes burning with fury. Sarah tried to run, but the mask was too fast. It grabbed her, its grip like iron.
Emily is mine,
it growled, tightening its hold. And now so are you! As the mask's darkness began to consume Sarah, she felt a strange sense of peace. She had done everything she could to save her friend, and now she would join her in the darkness. The town continued to fall into chaos, the mask's power growing with each soul it claimed. And as it looked out over its domain, it knew that its reign of terror was just beginning.